In my Yonko versus Admiral video, I did hint towards Roger versus Whitebeard in my Whitebeard section, and a lot of you guys said that you wanted to see it, so here we are today to cover it. So strap in, because this is going to be an in-depth one. I'm going to go over everything about these guys and put them up against each other to see who really wins. But before I get into the video, if you guys enjoy content like this, you guys know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe, since I do put out content like this very frequently, and you know what, it's a win-win. You guys show support and I'll give it back to you in videos. Whether it's One Piece, other anime, or just fiction in general, in due time I will cover it, so be there when I go there. But that's enough of my rambling. Let's get into the video and really find out who is stronger between Roger or Whitebeard. Now usually this is the point where I would obviously go over each character and then I'll go into the versus battle, but I'm going to format this video a lot differently because this is a different type of discussion I'm going to be going over. Roger versus Whitebeard is a very debated topic because people just don't seem to understand how Roger's sickness works and just how Whitebeard as a person is. First of all, I want to discuss Roger's sickness. Now I believe the whole misunderstanding on Roger's sickness mainly comes from people not wanting to read chapter 0 or just not wanting to watch the Strong World movie. If you haven't done either of those two things and you want to argue this point, then I mean, look, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're going to be walking into a bunch of landmines, because the chapter blatantly says that Roger's sickness isn't hindering him at all. He's in great shape, as Crocus says, and Crocus is the doctor, so if the doctor is saying he's in great shape, then yeah, let him fight. A lot of people like to take this statement and drag it and make it seem like he had Whitebeard's level of sickness, when that is just not the case. Whitebeard was hooked up to machines and couldn't move without those machines. He was sleeping with those machines. We've seen it in Ace's flashback, but with Roger he was able to walk around fine and he didn't have any machines like tied up to him. He was completely fine to go around and do whatever he was doing. He just knew that at a certain point he was going to die. So as you can see, Roger's sickness isn't hindering him in battle at all, and he would have mentioned it saying, yo, look, listen, I can't really fight at my full strength because I'm suffering from this sickness. Roger is probably just another person to say that, or just make it known, or just something so we can get an indicator. Or I wouldn't even say he would say it himself. I think Crocus would stress it to him and be like, yo, you should not fight this person because they would beat you if you're fighting with a sickness. But he sees Shiki, and Shiki is a very top tier character, as we know. Shiki is someone that Sengoku and Garp was like, okay, we gotta take him down. Although I don't believe they need to team up for him, I do believe that they was like, okay, we have to take him down because he's a serious threat. Shiki was on the Rocks Pirates as well, so I think that should just tell you that yes, this guy is strong. So if Roger was like, yeah, come, let's fight, and Crocus was saying, yeah, let him go, he can fight, then why are we now debating, oh, Roger's weakness severely weakened him? No, it didn't. It was not portrayed anywhere close to Whitebeard's sickness. Whitebeard's sickness was like, oh, he's definitely sick, like we need to keep him off these machines or he's done. Like I think there's even a statement or just somebody says something where it's like, yo, why is he off the machines, or he needs to be on the machines to stay alive. Like it was bad. It was really, really bad. And so since we've covered that whole situation with his sickness, I now want to move into the Haki thing. Now I know the majority of the community do have sense and know that yes, Whitebeard's Haki was up to spec with Roger's, but a lot of people like to say that Roger's Haki was way better, when that is just not the case. Whitebeard's Haki was able to match Roger's, and I don't think there's anything going against it. If you want to say that Roger's was a little bit better because he had no devil fruit, then sure, but I don't know where everybody got this argument of, oh yes, Roger has way better Haki than Whitebeard. Like I never understood where that logic even came in. Now I know a lot of people like to fall back on the Kaido statement where he's like, Roger ruled the seas even with just Haki alone, but when you look at Whitebeard's motivations to being a pirate and just why he's a pirate in general, just everything about Whitebeard, you kind of just like, okay, well, I mean the statement does kind of fall flat against Whitebeard. Like it just doesn't really make sense. Whitebeard only joined the game for a family. That's literally it. He didn't join it for anything else but a family. He did not care about the One Piece. Even when the One Piece was found, he did not care. Like he literally only cared about his family. That's it. Now there is another statement out there that does boost up Roger above Whitebeard, and I'm going to use it here just so Roger fans can have a little bit to snack on, and it is Shiki saying it directly to Whitebeard as well. Shiki says to Whitebeard that, oh, now that Roger's gone, the wall in front of us is gone, now it's your generation. And it's kind of like Whitebeard doesn't even really care. Like Shiki's out here being irritable as ever, but Whitebeard genuinely just doesn't care. Like that's not his goal. Like Roger's never been an obstacle for Whitebeard, and Whitebeard's never been an obstacle for Roger. Like it's never been a sort of thing. Like that's why I don't really like using that statement, because I mean if you have a reading comprehension, if you like decent reading comprehension, you just know that is just not the case between those two. Like those two are friends at best. Like they're not, like at worst they're, I don't know, acquaintances. They're not anybody that's going to be fighting each other like seriously. And so with that, I now want to cover the massive elephant in the room, and that's their 3-day fight. And I'm really going to break it down so you guys really just understand why a lot of people like to blow this fight out of proportion. As we know, during the Oden flashback, Roger and Whitebeard do fight for 3 days, and by the end of those 3 days both of them seemingly are unscathed and whatnot, so obviously you can just tell it's a draw. But As we know, they're fighting, and a lot of people like to push the narrative that because Roger was sick in quotation marks, he's stronger than Whitebeard because he wasn't in his prime, when, as I just said before, I debunked it, him being sick and whatnot. And a lot of people don't like to include the fact that Whitebeard didn't use his devil fruit, and a lot of people are like, oh, how do you know he didn't use it? Okay, first of all, if Whitebeard was using even half of what his devil fruit could do, the island would at least be destroyed, like a tiny bit, but it's not. The island is completely fine. There isn't any like massive quakes or whatnot. A lot of people like to downplay like Whitebeard's devil fruit when, I mean, have you seen the devil fruit? Like, what's it to downplay about the devil fruit? Lately, I've seen a few people say that it's not really that good because he used it against Oden, so it's not like a massive thing. But it's like, if Whitebeard was really to go loud, then Oden would not be there. Like, he would probably perished on the spot. Like, I'm being deadly serious. Like, if he was truly trying to like properly hurt him, which we know he wasn't, because he makes a statement before that saying, like, let's not do too much. Like, let's just like see what the island's about, because he didn't want to like interrupt the island at all. So it was just a friendly little scrap, and that's why he even helped him up at the end. Like, if he was trying to kill the guy, then he would have done it. Now, one thing I do want to say is that I do believe that the fight was serious to a certain extent on both sides. Not like serious as they actually like genuinely want to kill each other. Like, I feel like it's Garp and Roger levels, but Whitebeard's not going to use his devil fruit because, I mean, look, Roger does say that it's his last time he's going to see Whitebeard, so I'm assuming he's going to give it his all and try obviously have a good fight with him. So that is one thing I do want to focus on, and as we saw, they both look pretty fine by the end of the fight. So yeah, look, listen, it's a draw, and if that's Roger going all out without Whitebeard using his devil fruit, then listen, don't worry, I want to get into a little bit later, but I just want to quickly focus on this fight because a lot of people do have the thought in their head like, oh, Roger was holding back, so it wasn't a serious fight. No, I do believe it was a very serious fight. Now, another thing I do want to touch on in this video is the titles aspect of it. Listen, you guys need to understand that when a character is named something, they're named it for a reason, unless they are proven a fraud, and Whitebeard is far from a fraud, unless you want to call him one, and then I don't really know what to say. As we know, Whitebeard was named the world's strongest man while Roger was alive, so there isn't an argument for, oh, well, he was given that because Roger wasn't there. No, he was named the world's strongest man because he was just that strong. That's just how it is. A lot of people like to say, oh, it's his physical strength, or oh, it's his like devil fruit. And yeah, I do believe his devil fruit does play a factor into it, but then, as I said, look at his haki and then add on his devil fruit, then it's a very easy 1+1 case. Like, okay, if his devil fruit is that great and his haki is that great, then why isn't he stronger than Roger? Like, what's not mathing? Like, does your brain not get it? And I do want to add on the Shanks versus Mihawk thing a little bit here, where a lot of people do believe that Shanks is stronger than Mihawk, when Mihawk's whole moniker is the world's strongest swordsman. Shanks is a swordsman, he uses his sword all the time, he's holding his sword whenever he wants to hold it. Like, you know when people just don't want to use their brains and just want to like ignore the story. Like, there hasn't been a single thing like publicly shown that yeah, Mihawk is actually a fraud. Tell me when that's happened. The narrative is leaning more towards Mihawk. The state, like, there are a lot of things that the community likes to do, and I think it's mainly because Shanks and Roger are tied to Luffy. Due to their connections with Luffy, a lot of people just like to make the whole argument of, nah, because they're connected to Luffy, then they have to be stronger than the other people like Whitebeard and Mihawk, when it's not really the case. They don't need to be. I mean, I can see an argument of saying, oh, but Oda loves him so much, so I mean, if you really want to say that, then go ahead, but it's not really like a sticking argument, and it'll just go up against what Oda's trying to set inside the story. Whitebeard is called the world's strongest man for a reason, and as I just kind of touched on there, I really want to touch on the bias inside the community and take this time to just really like point out the major bias in the community. And I feel like this is the perfect video outside of like Shanks versus Mihawk or something like that. I do believe this is the perfect time to point out the bias inside the community, because this is a matchup where it should be very easy. Like, if you were to show somebody that doesn't even watch One Piece, oh, who's stronger, they're gonna pick Whitebeard if you tell them everything around this fight. And so I feel like the community does have this bias, not only because of Luffy, but I don't know what it is. I think there's just something with Shanks and Roger where obviously Luffy is he's a massive toe into like, oh yeah, okay, we love them, so we're gonna say they're stronger. But I don't know, I feel like people just seem to think that Shanks and Roger have to be those like strong characters, and I think obviously the Pirate King role is in there. Kaido's statement doesn't make it any better because he's saying he ruled the seas, when, I mean, look, the whole Pirate King moniker is something that Roger didn't even really understand. He was like, oh, okay, so what happens if I like traveled the whole world? Like, okay. Another person people can bring up for the Roger side is the Don Chenjao statement, but as we know, that just wasn't the case since Whitebeard was literally there. Whitebeard is somebody that didn't even want to go for the One Piece, so why is that even an argument for you guys to be using? You can use all of those arguments for Luffy. For Luffy it does apply, since Luffy has had to fight all of these different Yonko and there's not really anybody aside from his Grand Fleet on his side like that. I mean, Luffy even has the world government to go up against now. He has so many different things he needs to go up against. And one thing people do need to understand is that Roger did make that whole Pirate King chase. His era, like in his era, everybody was just fighting for the sake of fighting, just wanting to rule things for the sake of ruling it. He was the one that was like, okay, cool, I'm now gonna make this thing where it's like, okay, I'm the Pirate King, so now go chase my treasure. People didn't even really care about that back in his day. People like, he literally created that. People didn't know that, oh, if he went to this secret island, there's a treasure there. Like, nobody even knew that. And so with this, you didn't have people now having to search for the poneglyphs, search for all these different things, and now it creates a competition. In his era, yeah, there was a bit of competition, but nobody was really trying to fight him for the last island. He was just going around doing it himself, and if he ran into somebody, then he would fight them. It's two different eras, and that is something that a lot of people do like to take out of context and just don't understand. And even in this new era where people were trying to run around and go grab the One Piece, Whitebeard was still named the world's strongest man, and people were like, yeah, no, it could be his era if he wanted to go do it. But obviously he didn't do it. He doesn't care about that. This whole debate just doesn't really make sense to me. I never understood why people would rate Roger higher than Whitebeard in terms of strength. Like, it just never really made sense to me. I mean, look, there are like a few statements backing up Roger, and I've covered them all in this video. Aside from that, there isn't really much saying that Roger is stronger than Whitebeard. It's just the people saying, oh, yeah, no, he has to be because of this, that, and the third. Like, it just isn't the case. And I felt the exact same thing does go on for Mihawk versus Shanks, and I don't think I'm going to be making a video on that, so I'm going to cover it a little bit here. Mihawk versus Shanks, to a very unbiased person, is very cut and dry. Mihawk is a title, Shanks has a sword. What does that mean? Mihawk is stronger. People like to misconstrue and obviously take this whole thing a different way by saying Shanks isn't a swordsman, this, that, the third. They like jumping through hoops so they can prove that Shanks is stronger than Mihawk. Listen, I have a theory on Shanks's strength and how it really works. I could make a video on that, but I'm not really going to touch on it here. I was just going to touch on the whole title aspect and why Mihawk is stronger. Now, if you took away Mihawk's title and said, yo, who's stronger, I'm going to automatically say Shanks. Like, Shanks has way more patrol, I mean, from what we've seen from the Mihawk. But then again, everything Shanks does, everybody likes to say leech, even I used to say leech, and I'm just here to say that yes, I was on Shanks' side before. I did believe that Shanks was stronger than Mihawk, but when you really sit back and look at it, it's like everything Shanks does kind of does boost Mihawk because he has that title and Shanks uses a sword whenever he does make a feat. Whether it's just bare arm haki precision or just him having a black blade, there's obviously something Mihawk is doing that Shanks isn't, and that makes him the world's strongest swordsman. It's in the title, strongest. It's not like it was like, oh, world's best swordsman, or like something different that makes it ambiguous enough for you guys to say that, oh, you know, Shanks is stronger. No, it blatantly says world's strongest swordsman. And if you want to then degrade Zoro's goal, then I really don't trust you with anything story based, because that is something that I just don't believe. Like, you can't really sit here and say, oh yeah, Zoro's dream isn't that important, Shanks is stronger, so you're going to make one character stronger than another so you can ruin another person's dream, like a main character's goal. Okay. With that being said, I want to wrap up the video and get this thing over and done with, because I feel like I'm yapping onto a lot of things and I could make it into a separate video. If you guys want to see it, then you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe and tell me in the comments. But yeah, I'm going to move into the wrap up section so we can now get this video over and done with. To conclude, there isn't a single thing, logical thing by the way, that if you read it and you're like, okay, no, let's actually do the checks, okay, no, it's correct, or oh, it's false. Everything, you do the checks, you understand it and understand what the story is trying to tell you. Yes, Whitebeard is stronger than Roger. This doesn't mean that Roger is a worse pirate or whatever. No, Roger is a great pirate. He's the Pirate King, of course. He's also going to be on top, but he just isn't the strongest. Being the Pirate King was never about being the strongest back in Roger's era. Roger created that. He literally spawned it himself, and that is why it is a lot harder in Luffy's era, and that's why in Luffy's era you kind of do need to be the strongest. I know there is a case that, oh, you could be like Buggy and just randomly grab people to get it for you. I mean, if you want to use that argument, then yeah, sure, whatever. But as we know, Luffy's gonna get it, and that's why he's gonna become the Pirate King. So yeah, that's the end of the video. I got like halfway through this video and realized that this, like, unless you're like, they don't have any feats for me to break down, so I had to like kind of, you know, do my thing. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like I'm 100% honest with you guys. Like, I'm not trying to say and bullshit. Like, come on, we're a family here, so I'm here to tell you that yeah, I can't lie. Halfway through this video, I kind of realized that yeah, there's not really much for me to say There's not even really like much for me to boost up about Roger. Like, okay, there's a lot to boost up about Roger, but like for this fight, hell no. Like, that's why I had to sit back and be like, maybe I could bring up Mio versus Shanks. I saw a few people saying, you should bring up Mio versus Shanks. And when I sat through this video and started making it, obviously I was writing the script and whatnot. I made bullet points, and even when I made the bullet points, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna make sense. But I was like, alright, cool. Let me just get it, because a lot of people were asking for it, and if you guys ask, you shall receive. And so yeah, unless it's like another video. I saw one of you guys trying to ask me a Bleach video. I will make a Bleach video in due time, just not now. Why? Because I don't want to make a Bleach video. I'm sorry, but no, Shanks versus Mihawk suffers from the exact same thing. I feel like if this was like, people like to view this more as like the Gojo versus Sukuna, like Shanks versus Mihawk, but in my eyes, it's not really even anything close. Like, there isn't anything for me to sit down and be like, oh, yeah, let's analyze these feats, let's analyze this, and let's get to a conclusion. There isn't anything for me to do, because you know how old there is. Like, I would have way more fun making a video versus like not Shanks versus Kaido. If you guys want me to make a Shanks versus Kaido video, I'll say, oh yeah, I'll 100% do that. But listen, I don't know about that Mihawk versus Shanks video. Like, that has to, I don't know, Mihawk has to get exposed for something, or that's like a little weak spot. We get a statement, and then I have to sit down and really like make a whole video going on about it. But yeah, this is the end of the video. I know I've babbled on for way too long. I want to end this video since I'm very tired. I'm gonna eat. So I shall see you in the next video. Goodbye.